Processes and work are volunteering into social projects. Output is gifts given away, no charge. Giving culture underpins efforts at public good creation in all sectors, new wave of voluntary solutions. Touch World is where this is a classic example. But what I am now trying to tell you in this course is when you look at the title of our course, Entrepreneurship in NGOs, what is happening? What is happening is you have a set of classical examples that we talked about in the health sector like NH or AEH. You have certain services being provided by government, but NGOs are finding increasingly that donations and charity are hard to come by. Money is just not available anymore easily. So where do you get that money? So people, they have to go back to this motto, self-sufficiency. So how do I get the self-sufficiency? Simply by trying to generate from whatever resources are available to me. That is where this comes in. So our attention is at a spectrum which is somewhere here but does not exist. Yes?
I want to understand all this thing in the traditional Indian context.
Yes.
Like the organizations, like
Yeah, we need to follow this discussion. Hi, listen. Yes.
Like in the traditional Indian, like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Swami Dayanand,
Yes.
work for the society. Like now also there are many seva committees and societies.
The classical Indian context or even the classical European context is here. This is Mother Teresa. This is Raja Ram Mohan Rai. This is the classical Seva Samiti. But what is happening is the classical Seva Samiti no longer gets money easily.
But we see that they are making dharmshalas, they are also charging.
They are making. That is here. That is here. Nobody is undermining that. Nobody is undermining this sector. This is a huge sector. Because this sector runs entirely or almost entirely on the basis of voluntary work. People don't get paid. Alokananda Roy doesn't get paid from the work she does in Touch World. You understand? Even let's say the guy in Vikramshila who came was speaking a lot, he's retired from CRY and he's gone there. He'll probably be getting something very nominal. They don't pay huge salaries to these people. So it's just probably how money to come to work and go back from work. You understand? But the point is that, let's say a Durbar. Let's take a Durbar. What was Durbar telling you? That they are working for these commercial sex workers. There's very little ground support. Police are chasing them. They are trying to fight for their rights. So, the way to fight for rights also is you have to make these people stand there on their own feet. So where is the money? So they have generated cooperatives, they are making things, they are selling them, they are providing education for these people. This entire activity of resource generation is not only coming from volunteerism or hardly coming from volunteerism, and obviously they are not a social enterprise. So they are an NGO which is trying to do entrepreneurial work to generate enough resources for them to function. You get me? The classical ones are either here or here. The two extreme pillars are mainstream business and volunteerism. Our interest area here is this. In fact, we have only shown you these four. Okay. In fact, not even this four. Public services we have not exposed you. We have exposed you to socially responsible business, social enterprise and volunteerism. And what we are trying to say is, these people in volunteerism are coming and telling you, help us migrate to a situation where at least part of our needs are met by ourselves. Because the biggest problem is with charity, it is not predictable. Except for huge temples or huge movements like Mother Teresa, you are not sure whether there will be money today as well as money tomorrow. So how do I make sure that my work survives beyond me? How do I institutionalize my work? How do I get it going from 0 to 1 to 2 or whatever? So a room has to be found here between volunteerism and social enterprise. So social enterprise is already found, the solution is found. This is, that is the story of the so-called business concept, the unmet needs by commercial markets and government. They found it. Like Arvind, they found it. Like Narayana Rudele, they found it. They don't need you and me. The people who need you and me are the people who have been in volunteerism, but they want to migrate towards a social enterprise and they're looking for a way. So that is the question they are posing to each one of you. Can you help us? So ideally the projects that you should be doing with NGOs, ideally, it is not that you'll always be doing, is to find that roadmap for them of entrepreneurship. So what I'm trying to tell you is, this is different from these two categories, but it is moving in this direction. So it is ideally, the course is to try and help the NGO which was staffed only with volunteers and depending only on charity, to migrate to a path where they can progressively also be, at least in part, a social enterprise. That means they can work with a mission-driven strategy, where they can generate some money which they can put back into growing their thing. I'll give you one example. I have worked through IIM with AIDS control. That is originally how I came across Durban. The problem there was that all this AIDS control thing is funded by the government in India, and with a couple of private foundations like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That is one example. There are some others. Clinton Foundation. These people used to help in AIDS control. But the point is, all the money that comes is usually for 1 year. Only 1 year. The point is, when you go and face your beneficiary, you can't tell them that I am doing this project and after 12 months you won't see me anymore. That is not how human interaction happens. So how do you ensure that beyond 1 year, the good work started will carry on? So therefore, what is called this project cycle financing has to be supplemented and add to that entrepreneurial activity which generates a steady income flow and a steady thing for them. Get me? That is where this course comes, and that is the spirit, at least, of the projects that you will be doing for various people. Not all of it will be in this category, but this is by and large to help a mission-driven, not-for-profit NGO and to prepare a roadmap for them to eventually become a social enterprise. Is that clear? So, I have not uploaded this presentation. I'll just take some of these slides and put it up for you to see. Clear? So, anyway, now so this is one part of sharing with you what we wanted to do in the course. Second is a question which is, where are we with the projects? Ravita?
Some of them have made their concern.
It's still some. How many have not?
They haven't copied most of them, so I am not sure how many of them.
So you must give a status update to Ramita, because now we are actually in the second and final leg of the course. If you have finalized, please share with her all the details, because she needs to know. Remember that these people will also grade you. We need to know how serious your work is, what is the involvement, what is happening, who is your project collaborator on the other side in the NGO, his or her email, telephone number, all that we need. Okay? Make sure that Ramita, if you've already sent it to her, it's fine. By Wednesday, Ramita, I need a complete update of every person's activity on this course. As in terms of assignment, I once again clarified the exact spirit of what the assignment should be on the theoretical level today. Alright? Okay. Now we have started, so I also explained initially that once we needed to understand how NGOs work. What is their world like? Then we had intensive interactions with someone. Then we started focusing on specific modules of this course. In fact, the first module we worked on was leadership. So let me show you some of the things. Let me tell you, edit this presentation, only put up the parts that we discussed so that it doesn't become confusing for you. Yes? They will have to do it. We have time to put us there. So we will do that. So this is, I told you last time when we met, Dr. Dev, the whole session was taken up. Of course, there are some common slides you see because we worked on it together, some of the slides. So you will find some common slides, but nevertheless, you need to see this. This is something I think you've already seen. This is borrowed from me, which Dr. Dev showed that. So what is a new kind of leader that we are talking about? This whole area, you need to understand in one simple way, which is, there is, and I think Dr. Dev asked you this question, what is the difference between a corporate leader on one side and an NGO leader on the other? Now, what he also said in that session, if you remember now, just taking you back down memory lane, he said that in the corporate, a leader, whether you have a so-called leader, you need managers. Because the brief is given, you have to manage, you have to make the thing grow. It's a far more cut and dry plate. Whereas in the NGO, leadership is more important than management. You remember something like this was discussed. In an NGO, management is a second part. Leadership is far more paramount. In terms of importance, in a corporate, leadership is important, but management is equally important. And in fact, a good manager can become a very good leader in a corporate. Here, an NGO leader and an NGO manager may or may not be the same. Now, let me now tell you, the people that you've met here, you've met two kinds. Alokananda Roy is manager or leader. That's the lady from Touch World. Huh? Leader. Okay, so I'll put down here so that we know without taking names. Later on, this is the organization. Alright. Then you met people from, ITC was here. You met managers of ITC. You met Turnstone Global, leader or manager. Turnstone Global. You met her in the third session. Where? It's here, Turnstone. Look it up on your course web, it's there. Heritage, manager or leader? Whom did you meet? Heritage, the old people organization. Manager. So, this is Heritage. Then you met Durbar, manager or leader? Durbar is the commercial sex worker. Manager. So this is Durbar. Okay. Then we met Cry, manager or leader? Cry. Singing, same. Vikramshila, actually same. you also have now met Dr. Dev from Moinapur. So although he is a manager or kind of as a doctor with Narayan Rudayalaya, as far as Moinapur is concerned, he is the leader. What are the differences between the two? You met both these kinds of people. Yes?
So the leader, they play a significant role within the NGO. Without them, the NGO as of now would not exist.
Absolutely. Without the leader, the NGO will not exist.
And the manager is in some kind of replaceable. He's doing work and is engaged in the NGO, but another person could also do this.
Another person theoretically could also do. Let me get into a little bit of, now that we've done the background of what we just discussed, let me explain a little bit further. Arvind Eye Hospital, Dr. V was the central person. First of all, would you classify him as a corporate leader or as an NGO leader? Huh? Yes. Remember, it is for profit. I'm just saying this so that these confusions don't come up later. It's a company. Arvind Eye Hospital is classified legally as a company. However, as you just saw in the previous slide, it is mission driven, number one. Number two, the entire money is being used to promote the mission. The business activity is purely to promote the mission strategy. So therefore, in terms of leadership style, it is an NGO style, it is not a corporate style. Whereas with ITC, it is a corporate style. So if you remember, ITC was working with certain NGOs. They named a few NGOs also. If you look up the video, you will see they named the NGOs, they're working through the NGOs. So therefore, it is a corporate management style. The guy, if you look at all your presentations that you've met, that you have heard in this course so far, which was the best presentation? Which was the best presentation? Huh? Yes, but that was from the heart. You've had two kinds of presentations, one from the mind and one from the heart. The one from the mind, the best was ITC. Very structured, purely corporate, facts, figures, graphs, pie charts. You have the works. They are also passionate, but the way of presentation is from here. And touch world, some movies, some words, a passion, a determination. I want to do this. I want to change the world around me. I'm doing my best. Can you help me? It's a completely different appeal. So that is a leader. So without a Dr. V and Alokananda Roy, they are not replaceable. That he is absolutely right. What's your name? Matthias. So Matthias, you're absolutely right. The NGO leader is not replaceable. That is why you guys asked that question in class. What happens when you are not running the show? And that was a very, very valid question. Okay? Dr. V's has survived because Arvind Eye Hospital, because it's also a successful business model. And if you have seen the video, in the video his successor says the process or the means may be different, but the central theme, the mission remains the same. So because they have the financial resources to do it, it remains the same. So everybody's dream is to have like an Arvind or an Narayan there. So once they are not there, it can still carry on. It doesn't die with them. So that is Alokananda Roy's dream. Whether she can do it in her lifetime, whether she has the assistance, the ability, we don't know. In the process of what Dr. Devi Shetty did in Narayana Rudayalaya, he was helped by his father-in-law, who happens to be a big businessman. when he left Calcutta and went to Bangalore to set up Narayana Hridayalaya, two things he did. One is Asia Heart Foundation, which set up the R.M. Tagore Hospital, which Dr. Dev was talking about in Calcutta, in collaboration with another senior doctor, Dr. Alok Roy, who later separated and built the Medica chain of hospitals. So it was with Dr. Alok Roy that together they built the Asia Heart Foundation, of which R.M. Tagore is a product. Asia Heart Foundation is arguably still till date their most revenue churning activity, because he was most known here. When he arrived in Bangalore, Dr. Devi Shetty, despite being a national, almost a cult icon, he was still a person known to Eastern India, because he had worked essentially here. People knew him as a doctor. So the man who helped him in the whole activity there was his father-in-law, who was, into big business. He gave him the land in Bomasandra near Bangalore, where the Narayana Hospital really stands. So the seed capital was provided by his wife's family, because he was just a doctor. He didn't know how to go about it. With Dr. V, it was his brother. If you see his, in the video, it is his brother who was not rich, but he had the financial acumen to really pledge family jewelry, to do various things. And so Dr. V didn't really have to think what to do. When Dr. Dev left that day here, he was telling me a story, which I don't think he was telling you, he told you the full story. Remember, he talked about some scholarships for village boys and girls to pursue medical courses, etc. So he was telling me that, in fact, the video that he was showing here was taken in Calcutta a few days ago with Dr. Devi Shetty. So Dr. Devi Shetty had this meeting about the scholarships and said here, well, how many do you think we should give? And they were, I think, giving some 10 or something.
20.
Very, very, sorry?
20.
Yeah, 20, some very small number. And they immediately said, well, we need to make a quantum jump. It should be at least 100. And he said, let's do it. Immediately called up Bangalore, the people who were there. And obviously, Dr. Shetty is the owner, you can't say no to him. But those guys were figuring out, how the hell do I do it? In earlier years, when I used to go to Bangalore to meet Dr. Shetty, I remember hearing stories like, a child has gone, unable to pay. Dr. Shetty has said, no pay. Now, how does the hospital pay? So the financial model is fine, but he's the owner, you can't refuse. So the manager has to rack his brains to figure out how. So that is the social enterprise, and therefore that is where their style of management is that of an NGO. Now look at the NGO manager for a moment. We said the NGO manager is replaceable. Is it true? Is the NGO manager really replaceable? I'll tell you why. The guy who left from CRI is working with Vikram Sheela now. He's retired technically. So why do you think Vikram Sheela took him? Why do you think a manager in an NGO is really replaceable? If so, why so? If not, why not? Anybody? Yes?
As managers in the NGO, they've worked there for years, so it's just understandable that he gets hired again. He's retired because he's got a lot of experience.
Yes, so one is, therefore you're very right, the experience counts. The experience in this sector is not easy to come by. You have more experienced corporate managers than you have experienced NGO managers. What he was telling you, remember, he was talking of a round table which I had attended. Of course, he was talking about it in other ways, but he was the principal mover. He had got the government there, he had got policymakers there, he had got the US Embassy there, he had got many schools and colleges and universities there in that round table. So therefore, an NGO manager also is a very rare breed, because his level of advocacy at a personal level has to mean that he knows government and relevant agencies. He has to know funding agencies like Ford Foundation, Clinton Foundation. Bill and Melinda Gates and those kinds of people, a huge number. He has to know people working on the ground, and he has to know established players in the field. It's not easy. So the experience bit is also something that is harder to come by in the NGO sector than it is in the corporate sector, because NGOs are far newer element on the scene than corporates. Corporates have been around for donkey's years, okay, in one form or the other, in a regulated or a non-regulated environment. But there is another element. One is experience. What is the other? What is the other reason why it is hard to replace an NGO manager? Yes.
Second, as the leaders, they also have a certain passion for their NGOs.
Right? So they share the passion. So therefore, it's not easy because you have now discovered the NGO sector is like a world. If you are passionate about old people, you are not necessarily passionate about young children. Remember the day Helpage came, I think Durbar came also. And the lady came up and said, oh, they were saying so much, but you know the old people we have. You can sense that pride, very lightly put, but you sense that pride. I am passionate. If she leaves Helpage, she will not go anywhere else. This guy who left CRY went to Vikramshila. Why? Because both work with children. So it's the passion for that particular sector. Right. What else? Yes?
Maybe the network, like for the voluntary NGOs, for example, they are dependent on donations, and this person, like if I know any friend or they trust me that I will work with this
Yes,
money.
you're right, the network. You're true. I can raise funds, I have credibility. So my credibility, yes. What else? There's one thing more that is very fundamental. Yes?
Like in most of the NGOs, it's the volunteers that goes. So
Right. This is the reason finally. For the best part, the NGO manager is either not paid or seriously underpaid. It is very difficult to find passionate people at virtually very little cost. When I uploaded one presentation for you, role of NGOs in the nation's development, one thing it says is the majority of NGOs do not employ anybody. They only work on pure volunteers. That imposes a huge challenge on NGO work. So when you are talking of replacing an NGO manager, you're talking of replacing the guy's experience, very difficult. Replacing that guy's credibility, impossible. Replacing that guy's ability to raise funds, very difficult. Most importantly, the guy is coming to you for very little cost. So this is almost impossible. Also in the NGO world, remember, there are broadly from a completely different point of view, two kinds of NGOs. Or rather, at one point in time, almost all NGOs were either religious or influenced by religion. The Catholic Church, the Society of Jesuits, which have started so many schools in India. Remember, those people are finally fed, clothed, given houses, everything by the church or the temple or the religious organization. So therefore, their choice is that if they leave that place, they have left their vows. They have left their robe, they have renounced the church, they probably got married or something like that. Not every priest gets married. So the NGO, the so-called NGO origin, which is secular, which is non-religious, in India at least, is a very recent vintage. When you talk to a Ramakrishna mission, you're talking to 100 years of social work, but you are also talking to a body of monks whose food, whose clothing, whose shelter, everything is taken care of by the Ramakrishna mission. The guy who comes to you from a Helpage, from a Durbar, from a CRY, from a Cine, has nobody to look after him in terms of food, shelter, what have you. It is his passion which is unpaid. How he runs his show is itself a miracle. So, That is the crying need and the crying story of this, and the story here about volunteerism. This is a sector that has emerged from either volunteerism or is emerging from the shadows of religious organizations. Religious organizations means church organizations, madrasas, Islamic seminaries, and Hindu organizations like Ramakrishna Mission, Bharat Sevashram, Sangha and whatever, where your basic needs are clearly catered to. Number one,